I'm here at the front of the vehicle, and over here I have the brake line. Now, one of the service requirements is to inspect the hoses, the brake lines. Now, if I look at this, it probably looks okay, but I want to just show you a closer look. Now, here's the hose. Now, one has to inspect the entire hose. Now, the only way that I can see that it's actually damaged is by turning the wheel or by flexing the hose. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the wheel a little bit. I've now turned the front wheel a little bit, and notice the hose has these little cracks in it. And I've even wiped it down to have a better look at these cracks. And you can see that this hose is definitely perishing. So if I just visually looked at it without flexing the hose, I would not see that the hose is actually on its way out. So because I moved this hose through this bushing, I was actually able to see this damaged section. So that means that when checking hoses, one has to thoroughly check from the start. For example, over here where it is clamped, all the way to the brake caliper where it is clamped on the other side. Flexible hoses such as these also need to be inspected, and it's important to inspect from where the clamp is all the way to where the hose terminates. And inspecting a flexible hose requires me to actually bend it and squeeze it, and when I squeeze it, I'm checking to see that it still has elasticity, and this I can see is still in good condition, and there I can see the hose is still usable for the time being. Checking is touching and feeling and bending and manipulating in order to make a technical decision as to whether the hoses, the rubber parts, are still in good working order. On many service schedules, there's a requirement to check the condition of rubber boots, rubber bushings on vehicles. Now, many people don't actually do the check, and I just want to show you how important this is. Now, just having a look here, you can see that this rubber boot by this ball joint has actually been slit. So what happened here is somehow this rubber got torn, and there's normally grease inside here, and that grease has dried out, it has been displaced, and I'm sure some sediment has also got in here. And just listen to this control arm. So this ball joint here has been starved of lubrication. For example, here's the replacement, and when I move it, it definitely does not make any clicking or creaking sounds. So it's extremely important to actually physically go and check the condition of the boot. Right, I've removed the control arm from the vehicle, and I just want to show you a few things. Notice how the ball joint can lift up and down. That is telling me that excessive wear has happened on that ball joint. It should not be able to do this, and it can even move left and right. So a lot of wear and tear has happened inside here because of this rubber being damaged. Notice how loose and flimsy this ball joint is. It is actually becoming dangerous. Now, the reason for this is because of a crack in the rubber, sediment gets in there, and because the grease is sticky, it attracts the dirt, and the dirt is rough. And when the dirt gets inside there and this moves, it has an effect of almost like sandpaper. And what it does is it wears the entire joint here prematurely. That means that this car part needs to be changed earlier than it should have been because of something as simple as just a slit in the rubber here. Now, this is a boot for a CV joint. The only way to check a boot or the rubber on a vehicle is to actually flex it and stress it. And here you can see I'm doing that, making sure that the boot is still in working order. Now, the same applies to the rubber bushings on a control arm. For example, here I'm flexing it. The only way to do this while it's still on the vehicle is to use a pry bar or to clamp the control arm and try and turn it. And in doing so, inspect the condition of the rubber. If I pull on this quite firmly, I can see that the rubber is starting to tear away from the metal here. So this is on its way out. So the only way I would have been able to assess that is by putting this under pressure. Then I would have had to have used a pry bar of sorts to move this in order to inspect the bushings when I'm doing my check. Thanks for watching, and cheers.